Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May edition. I don't know what it's called. A May edition of 100 Pictures of Honey. I'm very excited that you're here to hear these four wonderful readers. You will be muted during the meeting, but feel free to use the chat and the reactions to share how you feel about this amazing work. I will be putting the very impressive official bios of all of our readers into the chat as they read, as well as links to their current books. And I encourage you always to, if you like what you hear tonight, to please support these writers by purchasing their books. That is the best way to do that, as well as, obviously being a considerate and thoughtful listener to what they're saying tonight. Um, so thank you very much for being here, and we're not going to wait to get started. We're going to go ahead and get started right away to respect everyone's time. So our first reader this evening is Nadia Arioli, and Nadia is a writer who I've read for a long time and admired, and also a great editor of Thimble Lit Mag, who I believe is open right now. So maybe you can send her some things if you have things. Um, and I'm going to just read a very short poem of hers from her new collection that I was told she is not going to read tonight. One that I really love, which is called Grendel's Mother Considers Ants. The way to carry is to care. You would have taken the arm as well, 100,000 of you. You have to be strong to be small. Oh, ants, can you lift my prayer? Nadia.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to be reading from Mother Fur, like Donna said. The book is structured in three distinct parts. The first part is I gave birth and that's wild. Oh my God. And then the second part is you know what monster had a mother? Grendel. So it's from her voice. And then the last part is about postpartum hair loss. The last part's an essay, so I won't be reading from that part. So I'm just gonna dive on in. Now, this one is the first poem of the collection, In Defense of Gentleness. Oh, can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. In defense of gentleness, I teach my son to use dandelions instead of flame. This one is called Snapshots for My Family. Online, I saw like an old-timey photograph and the caption photo of the first camera being made, and I just spiraled out about it. Like, how it doesn't make sense. How is there a photo of the first camera being made? So I decided to write a poem about that and my emergency C-section I had. So snapshots for my family. I am all camera. I have no knowledge of my inner workings. Each contraction is a hanging like spools of film catching wrong. The doctors decide to cut me open, springing the fat roll of you out, perfect canister of blood and organs. Mine, but not mine. The doctors slice a straight line, finding a brand new flap, and out you snap. Out all vowels, a screech of light. I, camera, try to document with my drug-addled, pain-addled mind, saying, you must remember all this as it happens. The drive over for what was planned, the induced labor that almost is the death of you. On the way, we listen to Django Reinhardt. We get soggy sandwiches, turkey and avocado on whole wheat. My belly became telescopic with you, reaching for the heavens, or more accurately, outwards in red lines, like the first camera, a bloated box on a bloated box the size of God, surrounded by men in coats. One man hangs on the edge of the aperture like an inverse bat. Photograph of the first camera being built, the caption says. Oh, historic occasion, oh, unity of makers. But then who or what took the photo? A time traveler? When they took your first ultrasound, the doctor saw cysts and untamed uterine growth, said conception would be difficult, but I already had. Was it mirrors displayed elaborately that allowed the camera to take a photo of itself? You are a miracle of light. Or was the photo a staged recreation? I am trying to write the story of you. Now I know it was you. Life pulled from a wound. You, Sam, who saw me being made. I said shh in the middle because my son was walking by. Like, be quiet. I'm reading about how much I love you. Now shut up. I mean, not really. I didn't say that. Just be quiet, please. And then here's another poem. Red Sea Whale. My son has a mouth like the Red Sea, parting in two perfect halves. The gum sprays of spit over them. Ooh, 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 he cries, teething, a small nub on the lower left, white, arching, a whale. I had wondered as a child about the marine life when God commanded Moses to part the sea. Small of the shallows, big of the deeps, all made vertical, a parfait of salt and wild. I thought this the better sort of love than what God showed Moses. And why shouldn't God have a special fondness for whales, both ponderous and just under the surface of things? The weightlessness of not being given a choice, no burning bush, no being left outside the promised land, only up, up, up toward the divine, holy tooth bursting through skin. My son is growing out, not up, and his Red Sea has whales of a different sort. I hold him until he sleeps. There is no way to explain God to him, why his bones must break through his own body. And would I, if I could? I've spent too much time in the deep. I had forgotten until now what happens when God says up, up, up. And this is the last poem from this section. It's called Teaching My Son Poetry. Kitten, I read to my son from a touch and feel book. Meow, meow. And I show him the picture of orange stripes with yarn. It looks like our cat, but smaller and more wide-eyed. Puppy, I read next. Woof, woof. And I let him touch where the picture gives way to soft white fluff, like a forest emptying to a meadow. Tiger cub licking his nose. Baby chimpanzee. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah. Starfish, five long arms. Butterfly, flutter, flutter, flutter. Soon I will give him other tools for knowing the world. Odometers for how far he's been, spectrometers for when light is only waves, cyanometers for the blueness of the sky. For now, I lay my son in his crib. He's almost asleep, and I've leaked through my shirt again. I dig through his crate of soft toys. Everything is soft in babyland, and put his small elephant on his chest. The mother elephant it came with feels too heavy. I make the baby elephant nuzzle my son's face with its snout. Starfish, I say, five long arms. And then now we're going to a different section where it's Grendel's mother. This one's about ortolans, which is this horrible, horrible, illegal dish where you take an entire bird, an ortolan, and then you like get it so drunk on alcohol that it dies, and then you put on a blindfold and eat it. And apparently people do this. So I wrote a poem about it because I thought it was monstrous. Grendel's mother considers ortolans. How do you manage it? Slow death like adoration, my buntings, my bloated flaps. In darkness, they fed you until you almost popped, because that is what we do when we can't see. Consume until we burst, turning our bodies as large as houses to do what houses do, body a container for fear. How was the anointing? Did it feel like desire transfigured into sacrament? Unction and poison, poison in little lungs that sung with their cousins in coal mines. And then how was the final birth in reverse? Feet first, though I suppose you came from egg, not womb. In went your twiggy feet, in went your branchy legs, guts in a big bite like feathered ravioli. My similes are full of holes, but so are the nets they use to catch you, my ortolans. When I go, it won't be like this. It won't be disgusting and illegal and tender. Is it so wrong to desire this? Beowulf, I know it's useless, but I'm asking. Do it as planning. Do it as treat. Do it while hiding from God. Um, this one is Grendel's mother considers pigs. Oh, small beast with little hooves, they've watched you grow bloatedly, wild thing they tamed, then denigrated for being caged. Your pink anatomy is not like mine, nor your pink jailers. You look at the muck they stuck you in and snuffle around for grubs. Your neck is stuck like that, from what I surmised, unable to see the stars. Once I tried to approach you, hold you in my fur arms as if you were my children, toothy animals, children of Cain. This was before he was born. But you sensed my coming, and the squealing was unbearable. I slunk away. I had a dream after Grendel. We were both children again and decided to get a pet. And one morning we woke up, came downstairs, and in the middle of the living room were three holes, black and round like puddles. I scooped one onto into my arms, held it there to my chest. The hole was the size of a piglet. I took it outside and tilted it up towards the stars as dawn was poking its snout through the clouds. In my arms, squealing. And I just have two more. Don't worry, they're short. I think am I using the right amount of time? I'm sorry. Okay, just two more. They're both short. It's gonna be fine. This one has the opening line. No, wait, the closing line is from Toni Morrison. Grendel's mother considers vinegar. Fatherless is Grendel. The vinegar has not been, fatherless is Grendel. The vinegar has not been generated, just gestated. The mother was born as ugly as sin. Ask me for octopus gut, for swamp belly, for thick female mucus, and I will show you the same for each, in fetching bottles, innocuous and shelved. Do you feel it? The shame and wonder of a generative force, but turned lurid by how wet it is. What could be more wet and lurid than a mother? What could be more wet and repulsive than a mother? What could be more wet? I think our purpose is the same, Vinegar and I. We clean and clean with acid claw. We clean so they gag us and put us behind bars. What else will unsoil? What else will eat the dead? You need us to keep your hands clean. This is the state of the world. Gross paw, slime mother, sealed jar. Everyone already knows evil has no father. Then there's one more. I totally thought we started at 7, and I was like, oh my gosh, has I been reading for 45 minutes? But then I remembered it's mom brain. Um, So there's one more. It's deliberately ambiguous. So whatever way you want to interpret it is the correct one. Called Grendel's mother considers Eve. I'm sorry, I was looking for Lilith. That's that's it. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thank you so
Yay.
much. Thank you so much, Nadia. I highly recommend you check out Nadia's work. I think she's really brilliant at juxtaposing things that you would never think of going together and making them really beautiful and moving and interesting to think about. So thank you, Nadia. Our next reader is going to be Genevieve DeGuzman. Um, and Genevieve's book, Karaoke at the End of the World, is wonderful. And again, I recommend that you get yourself a copy, read her very impressive bio. And I'm just going to read a few lines from one of my favorite poems from that book, which is called Cosmonaut's Lament for Her Mother. Contrails unspool like hair in zero G, and the cosmonaut thinks of earthbound tide pools, little pockets of life where there should be no life, of her mother, unclasping a rosary notched at the throat when the burning line unzips the sky.
Thank you, Donna. That's also one of my favorite poems in the collection. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to be here and to share space and time with you. I'm really humbled to be reading alongside all of you amazing poets. Nadia, your poems are just so visceral. They like hit me right in the gut. I love them, and I'm excited to explore more about your work. So I will be reading from my collection Karaoke at the End of the World. It came out in March of this year from Jackleg Press. I'm really excited. It's my first full length. And I've described Karaoke as a collection that moves through the multiverse to explore grief and loss, particularly around mother-daughter bonds, but also like girlhood and womanhood and all those tender apocalypses. And for this first poem, I'm going to take us on a little bit of a car chase with my mother. It's kind of a weird thing to say or to describe because I actually have fond memories, complicated memories of those moments of tension that I had with her growing up and those little mother-daughter spats that we used to have. And this poem is a surreal homage to that. It's called Mother. Mother is on a mission to run me down. Behind the wheel she drives, speed demon, tailgater, tearing up asphalt, spitting ribbons of Vulcan on the road. We drift together, matching gaits, tread to tread. Her headlights drill the back of my head, tethering us like twin buoys, womb tight. Overhead, Fanta orange horizons drip, and the Santa Anas boil down hillsides, backsides. The dangers here are hard to resist. Here the meek stroke their carving knives and ruffle their children's hair. Air crackles with every breath, electric. Regard uttered through my crooked bite could start a fire. My mother knows this, knows which rest stops to check for me, which hitchhikers are running away from home, which ones are trying to get home, what gets my dash to light up. I was on my way home and didn't stop. No passing for 40 miles through salt mountain passes. Desert in my mirror on fire. Tumbleweed on fire. Fire in the combustion engine, in the pistons racing hot. Fire in the hole, fire in the atrium and the ventricle pushing fireproof blood. Mile after mile, broken yellow lines pulse. I'm counting them off in the dark like blood pressure. I'm going so fast, the lines peel off the Yucca Clara story and Joshua Tree. Without the devil winds and the chase, without her high beams licking my neck bones, hurting me along this dirt dome, where would I go? What would I be when my mother unmasks in the mirror, closer to me than she appears? So for this this next poem, this one was written kind of after the devastating wildfires we had in California that threatened my childhood home and kind of forced my parents to evacuate at the time. And so it kind of feels appropriately apocalyptic. It's called Even Then We Danced. Even then we danced, when the bodies of animals told the truth, before our phones trembled our pockets, dog noses periscoping the air, deer limbs spilling across drought-scarred fields and tom-tom furies, and still we danced. High above, vultures circled what had been flushed from those wounds, and hawks, looking for mice, strung themselves along the wires, abacus beads marking a ledger of what we will owe. The smoke sends me back to the Sagrada Familia, an unfinished overture performed to God. Soaring glass and stone chorused and deafened, but dust motes that scattered in broken fermatas only remind me of what we had disturbed. See the strangers in masks, digging through what can be salvaged, breathing in what can't be. Later, they place a deer skull, figurine white, next to the black char of my washing machine Oculus. The body of the doe asleep on the cinder heap of my bedroom burns inside my lungs. I draw her shape to me as it was before the fires remade her. It is my shape now, sharpened on the whetstone of what we've borrowed. We tuned out the sirens, though the sirens herald what burning beasts know. We danced slow. For this next poem, so some of the more like fun and interesting things about putting this book together is that I got to channel different kinds of speakers and different characters from like the extinct, the ancient, animal, robot. But my favorite is the xenomorph from the Alien film franchise. I have a series of xenomorph poems in this book, and kind of speaks to my like obsession with the monstrous feminine and sort of the terror and tenderness of the maternal. This one's called The Xenomorph Turns 45. Before you blow her to smithereens, Marines, remember that she was once a mother to be. She turned 45 and launched herself in a pod with an unbreakable seal that would last 1,000,000 years. Adrift in space, she waited to be retrieved from the darkness like our time capsule golden record, etched with rock and roll songs sung at karaoke parties, and all the hellos in every language. Hello, children. Cherubs pinched apple-cheeked by the sun, envy of the block, hair glossy dark, sweet whiffs of damp grass and fresh linen. Like Voyager 2 passing Pluto, this brood leaves her a little more each day when she puts on cream to smooth the cracks on her hard shell beetle body. She cries when her daughter tosses her graduation cap, screams murder when her son skids on his bike, skins new knees. Blood excites her, but not more than the smell of chlorine from the pool, how it boiled off their backs under the summer sun. The male donor is a feminist and holds her hand, admiring the feeling of a body feeding another body. Oh, these tender fictions of children bickering at the jungle gym, their chatter invented atop the merry-go-round. She longs for the way they make believe the make-believe. She longs for a newer, younger body. She wishes to collect milk teeth as tokens to squeeze in hand as she hurtles through the burn. Come home, she thinks to the stars, with the fervor of every child screwing up their eyes to make a wish to their mothers. When I was putting this collection together, I was reading a lot of Brenda Shaughnessy's Octopus Museum. Many of you are familiar with that collection. I really loved how each section in that book kind of mimicked like an exhibit at a museum, sort of like after man's fall and like the octopus overlords have taken over. And I wanted to do something kind of like that in the same vein, kind of have a non-human speaker, kind of set it kind of a 1,000,000 years in the future or something, and just kind of see how that would kind of play with grief on the page. This one's called Close Encounter at Dance Party in the Distant Future. This close to the exhibit glass, my breath obscures everything but the slow burn in your eye. Tiger, after years of genetic blueprints and bonsai'd flank bits consumed, have you lost all memory of how to kill? Kept fat by jailers, have your sheathed claws become dull or sharp or manicured? Boredom murmured through the crowd as we moved to the next animal display, an ancestor in repose. Woman performs stand-up, cooks fun sit with chicken livers, and worries about her daughter, the black-haired red. The chance of intelligent life emerging in this universe is 1 in 10 to the 229th power, a probability so small, randomness can't explain why I'm here tonight, cataloging the dead brought back, the counterfeit haunted by their originals. From daughter cells in a strand of blood, a body is replicated, but from a womb of blood, a daughter is born. If I cut my hand by accident and bleed, what are the odds I fall inside your enclosure and draw you to your senses? Briefly, we understand the other. I know the flavor again of a kill brining a rough rake tongue. Know the urge to follow music, my tin can anatomy hungering for a real drumbeat, heartbeat. Another sound lashes the air when someone clanks at a CD player artifact. Articulated fingers program songs on shuffle. We pretend to dance, retro, like humans. Back in its cage, the tiger stirs at the movement, doesn't see me in front of its eye anymore. Doesn't see we grieve together, a reliquary and its relic, how my slow blink matches his. And I have one more poem for my slot here. But first, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to Donna for hosting all of us here tonight. This reading series is really one of the most vital ones out there. I've definitely seen some of my favorite poets and discovered new poets from just looking at the archives. And I'm humbled to be now a part of the community. So one last poem. I'm going to round out the evening with the title poem of the collection, Karaoke at the End of the World. I wrote this when I was in the Philippines, actually, while visiting family just months after my mom had passed away. And it's the poem that made me realize that what this collection could be, kind of united all the threads. And it's the poem I knew would end the book, and it does end the book, because it ends in childhood and memory, kind of where it all begins. So, Karaoke at the End of the World. Sullen child of 9, bound for home, notices the vents, puff shrouds inside the plane parked on the hot stone tarmac in Cebu Mactan Airport. Machine shudder meets jungle panting, and the breathing of an empty orchestra condenses an atmosphere above the child's bowl cut. These days, my hair is messy, lustrous from dye, and somehow the ends never rise past the shoulder, now just loosed vines for climbing. I long instead for that tidied youth. I could go back to that child's sampaguita and the landan, back to the first time smelling crab fat sizzling in fried rice and bitter gourd, to the child who knows nothing yet of grieving, its strange hunger and sustenance, green papaya ribboned in vinegar, calamansi pulp. How sadness becomes the curled tongues of moths sipping the jasmine sambac and the hibiscus that ornament a daughter's hair. Seatbelt sign off, the child takes off. Indoor climate control to you and me, but she's already flying above the Pacific stratosphere, mouthing miniatures of cumulus, nimbus stratus, mammatus, still dormant with the rain of future storms. Her superpower, to make the invisible visible. The child observes in secret her mother next to her, fussing, checking 3-4 times her watch, or rubbing the spot where her glasses dug into her nose, perched too high on a round face. Like the child I was, I watch you again, your face a full moon in cameo now, all coveted cheekbones in parentheses, meant to be gazed upon through clouds. I tell you about the hilly welts I earned, colliding with jellyfish parts in the sea, the kiss, suck, burn of encounters possible only in jeweled waters, just so I can hear you scold me. A knock, exclaimed like a wet slap, your shock and delight. I would let you repeat it on both cheeks for what it means. Daughter, child. At the beachside bar on Malapascua Island, karaoke was in full swing. The locals and surfers didn't know it then, but they praised you with every monster ballad on blast. When it was my turn to split apart cathedral notes, I selected songs of leaving. Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. I belted out praise songs, galactic dirges, space opera riffs for you again. My hair was salt wet with the sea, slicked back on that stage, smoothed into a crooning foreigner's shroud. I sang at the bar, alone, an alien, lullaby burning in my throat. Jellyfish toxin had yet to seep through all my layers of kid skin, soft, red marks yet to swell and rise like the dead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Genevieve. Beautiful. It's a great book. Again, please go buy it. And I would suggest you buy all of these. So put them all on your list if you can't get them right now. Our next reader is um, a person whose work I've read for a long time, but finally got to meet at AWP, and then finally have heard her read a couple times recently. And so our next reader is Chiara DiLello. And even if she reads this poem tonight, I wanted to share this little piece of it because the whole thing is incredible. Um, but my favorite poem of hers it's from her new book, and it's called Cardinal Grackle Briefly Grapefruit. And this is the portion I'm going to read, and I hope she reads the whole thing. I used to think it was funny how many pictures you could take of flowers. Mama, I take so many pictures of my flowers, like the rose that came up in my yard, for no other reason than someone before me planted it well. Everyone needs someone to plant them well. Chiara.
Thank you, Donna. Can everybody hear me okay? Fantastic. Genevieve, thank you for those beautiful poems. And Nadia, I loved hearing your work out loud. I it's actually really incredible all of the conversations happening between the works. My chapbook came out in January. It's called Childless Millennial. So I tend to joke that people know immediately whether or not it's for them, but the secret is that it's actually about my mom and my grandmother and a lot of ancestry things and relationships between mother and daughter and how complicated that is. And how, and I say that with love. So I definitely will read Cardinal Grackle. I wanted to start with a couple of other things, kind of building off of what I heard from you, Nadia, and from you, Genevieve, just in terms of like coming of age and also like birth being metal as hell. Like no one I don't think it gets appreciated enough. So it isn't always the right audience for some of these poems, but I feel like I have to seize the opportunity when it is. So this poem is about my own birth, and once I found out like details about the story that I didn't know before, it's called Episiotomy Poem, and I guess people can Google people who haven't had reason to know what that means. But yeah, gnarly, gnarly. And I just felt like there was so much to unpack there. So, episiotomy poem. I broke out of your body. They told you I had to. For years, I knew nothing of suture or seep. I believe the tale you tell of the male doctor who had no faith in supple or stretch and leapt instead for the certainty of slice. I left it wounded, the bone cradle you wrapped around me. If it were me, opened and sewed up again, even to deliver such love, would the memory ever sound like anything but blade? If it were someone who did it, not something, would their face turned toward me not always say knife? Behind my eyes turns a tiny, vicious machinery. What you keep from me moves the wheels. I broke out of your body. You tell me I had to. It happened to me, but I happened to you. Um, so there's I think there's a lot in choosing to not have kids where you really have to reckon with intergenerational things. And so one of the poems that's one of the older ones in this chapbook is about my grandmother. And and gender, because everything's always about gender. So a fair amount of that. But this is named after my grandmother, so this is Olya. I was full grown at 15, fighting baby fat with skipped lunches, and Babcha, my grandmother, met me there. Eye to eye with her shrinking frame, the terry cloth cap over her irradiated skull. I don't know whose idea it was to pull the wedding dress from the attic, saying, I bet she's lost so much she can fit into this again. I don't know who looked me over and realized it might fit me too. I lifted the hem over summer grass, hid my braces in a smile like the one from her wedding photo, so demure it seemed uncertain, kept soft and small. I only heard her voice rise, trying to tell us jokes at Christmas dinner. Her cheeks flushed pink from the first glass of wine. She'd get halfway through and crack herself up instead. Never finished, just laughed and laughed. What did I know then of work that binds the body up as vicious as a million rogue cells? What would I be if not for generations of women's labor, automatic as breath, and packing the good clothes away in paper and hiding the gold earrings in their cushioned box, brittle containers for the next of us to fill? What would I be if I had said no to the shape they wanted my body to take, the colors they'd have me wear? What did I ever see her do just for the delight of it? Um, I think in that, I think delight also factors into a lot of other sort of load-bearing poems in this book. And just the things that are possible when you decide, I'm not going to do the thing that lots of people necessarily expect me to do. Um, there's a series of poems, just checking my time. There's a series of poems in the chapbook that all have the same title. And they're kind of interspersed throughout the book, but I find that I'm reading them together often in chunks. And that's using the word nulliparous. Nulliparous is the medical term for someone who's never given birth. And these poems kind of congealed together under that title because they were floating around with all these different sort of angles of feeling as though when someone chooses not to have children, there isn't really a social category that we have for that person, except for Donna has heard me say this, except for outdated ones like the crone, which people are reclaiming absolutely wonderfully, where you can look forward to your crone years and just have a grand old time. Um, so I ended up playing around with that word and with a lot of the feelings that come up alongside of it. And I'm also a teacher. I mean, I'm really glad to be here because Donna is convening us as a teacher. And I think being an educator is one of the things that I really strongly identify with. And I'm in the lives of young people, regardless of having my own offspring or not. So, and I value that a lot. So here's a few poems from that series. And yeah. Nulliparous definitions. There is no word for what I am, so I have taken what I could find. The closest word we have slanders me, not creating, not laboring, having brought nothing into being. True, no part of me has left my body to walk outside it, except myself, except me. And like every mother, I couldn't live without her. Like every mother, I wanted her back. Nulliparous, botany. Unlike every plant in the garden, I have no desire to make more of myself. That is, if we assume the self I make would be anything like me, and assuming also, to be fair, something about the desires of plants. Just because they have the ability does not mean they will their own reproduction. At least I get to choose. At least I get to choose for now. I don't know. It's 2026, man. It's crazy. Nella Paris, Manifesto. I am burning my one-way ticket to legibility, to proper adulthood, to purpose, for many reasons. Prominent among them is that the ticket was printed in error. Destination says meaningful life, when I know full well that's only what they call it to get people to travel there. So I never want to disparage people's choices. And there's so much beautiful poetry also about motherhood and mother-child relationships. I think this book is really about like making room for an additional set of choices and ways of being that don't necessarily get talked about as often. So I always, before I start losing friends and alienating people, I always want to say that, you know, I'm all about the teacher life and the auntie life. And many of the poems in this book, there's a subset that's actually for my friends' kids. So I want to see how am I doing on time? I would love to read you one of those, and then we can close with the poem that Donna started with. So, my friend who is a writer had a daughter who I just loved before she was born. And this poem is for her. And she's heard me read it, even though she was about 5 months old at the time. So the baby named in this poem came to one of my readings, and it was delightful. This is Lucinda. Rather than an entombed, roped off living room like the one at Laura's house, which us 6-year-olds could not enter, my mother granted us full run of the apartment, endless, rampant. With running starts, we leapt to tumble the long diagonal across the grown-up's bed. A minefield of our making covered the dining room floor, seeded with Barbies and Tinker Toys. The land of children was everywhere, not demarcated, like at Laura's house where we ate in the kitchen, her sitter serving up kid feasts of chicken nuggets and name brand ketchup, corn syrup, and all. At home, I ate the broccoli and tofu and salads in balsamic strong enough to water my eyes, never picked up my toys, everything a forced collocation. We sank or swam as one. All that my mother had seeded piled up like our clothes in the corner, the ante-inn impossible to rake back. I could say I don't know which your mother will do, but I do. Your mother scoured the entire internet for the right blue leather couch, wouldn't take no for an answer to anything, drove the little beater sports car to its last mile and every horizon line. Dear girl I love already, your mother is her own. Your mother is her own, and it's beautiful. And this is the gift beyond the quiet hours or the closed door, that you'll learn to be your own because you've seen it done before. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Donna, for having me and for having us. I want to believe that this arrangement is completely on purpose. I'm giving you all the credit for it, for this lineup. Um, So I will close with this poem, and I think it's a nice one to end on because it has my students and my mom and my um, fledgling skills as a gardener, which I'm always trying to improve. So thanks, everybody. This is Cardinal Grackle, briefly grapefruit. The kids stare out over the pond while the park ranger asks questions about ecosystems. They touch a beaver pelt, an empty dome of turtle shell. They're saying what they know about animal adaptations when a turtle, a whole live one, pulls itself out of the water and onto the glacier rock at their feet. I am hopped up on Dayquil and running on fumes, but this is why I couldn't call in sick. The faces of these pandemic jaded children cracked wide open, the turtle's pointed nose slanted up at the clear May sky. People have asked me how I learned to notice things. Cardinal, grackle, the sky gone briefly grapefruit. It's a quality I don't always notice that I have, but when someone first asked, I didn't have to think about it. I knew I learned it from you. Look at the moon, you say. Look at that bird. Everyone needs someone to say, look at that bird. You adapted to your environment. Between work and home, you wrote at a rented desk at the Mercantile Library. You adapted to the every single night dinner rotation, to solo bedtime duties for both kids. You made it work even though the making and the working both seemed to go on and on. And I am so tired. But this is the showing up I believe in. In a long frayed line, we make our way to the ramble, where the ranger tells the kids to listen for bird sounds and hold up one finger for each different bird they hear. I used to think it was funny how many pictures you could take of flowers. Mama, I take so many pictures of my flowers, like the rose that came up in my yard for no other reason than someone before me planted it well. Everyone needs someone to plant them well. Everyone needs someone to say, close your eyes and count the birds. And here's the truth. Their fingers tick up like second hands, as if they aren't marking birds, but counting out moments of rare and precious peace, seasoned with late spring, with green. I can close my eyes and count the ways you are in me. 1, 2, and on and on. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. I love that poem so much. Sorry. It gets me every time.
Field trips.
Not the field trip. The field trips are part of it, but I love
No,
that
I
poem so
mean,
much.
just good
Thank you.
things come out of field trips. You never
Yes, they
know.
do. Yes, they do. Thank you so much for those beautiful poems. And we have one more
Thank
wonderful
you.
reader. Again, was lucky enough to meet at AWP this year after enjoying reading their work for a long time. And our last reader is Dorsia Smith Silva. And I'm just going to read a little snippet. Her work is so rich in place, and so I didn't want to take that away from her. But so I'm just going to read a little snippet from a poem that, when it was online, was called G is for Greenhood. I think it might have a different name in her book. She can tell us that. Green, not this green, never hurts. Ask the turacos giving off green among drizzled leaves. Ask the grasshoppers that throw themselves against grass because it glistens. Ask wet green in my book that hasn't, I typed that wrong. Ask wet green in my book that hasn't forgotten, spared green across homeland, where your green overlaps with mine. Dorsia.
Thank you so much, Donna, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you for hosting and organizing this. This has been an incredible evening. And thank you to the other readers tonight, Nadia, Genevieve, and Chiara. It's just so wonderful to hear these rich and tender poems. It's just really special. Thank you so much. So I could not come to 100 Pictures of Honey without reading my poem called The Bee. This poem, yes, is one of my favorite poems, and it's in my book. My book is called An Inheritance of Drowning. And it really examines the aftermath of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, which took place in 2017. And it also really looks at the social, political, and racial injustices that are happening in the United States. But the poem I'm going to read, The Bee, really centers what happens after a hurricane. For those people that don't know, you're without electricity. There's a lack of water as well. And in my case, we were very shocked that we found ourselves in that situation because this was our first major hurricane that we had experienced. So we had to wash everything by hand, including our undergarments. So I had washed all my undergarments and I have them outside on the drying rack. And this poor bee was really trying to pollinate my brassiere.
And I thought, oh dear, there's nothing there for you. It's just cotton, but it was so disoriented that it really was trying to, look for something. And I thought at that moment, we're all suffering. When we think of these disasters that happen on Earth, it's not just humans that suffer, it's also animals and creatures. And it really reminded me that we're all connected. We're all connected here on this earth. So I wrote this poem called The Bee after that experience. The Bee. After Hurricane Maria, you spin in a daze, punch drunk from the fetid fumes of a generator. But you have made a decision to eat, live. You leap onto a dark tan bra that is widely flapping on the clothesline, eager to gather something sweet and bring it to the surface. And yet there is nothing there but a bare circle of cotton. You wonder how the hurricane galloped away with the flowers, triggering a vanishing act. Well, where is the magician's wand to bring back the canopy of blossoms? It must be in the wind of loss, along with the why and because. There is no way to tell you about the aftermath, slow cruelty. It is a tale that claws cell by cell, leaving wings to litter this earth. So, as I mentioned, the book also looks at the racial, social, and political injustices happening in the United States. And the next poem I'm going to read is also one of my favorites. It's called Ghost Talker Poem. And it's for all the BIPOC women that go missing and do not get the national recognition that they deserve. We hear so much about other missing women, but we really have to think, what happened to the Indigenous women? What happened to, the BIPOC women that go missing? We really don't hear about them. So this poem is for them. Ghost Talker Poem. And for the Black girls that go missing from newspaper headlines and Spotlight 5 p.m. news, what happened to them? Kick the can over, see if the bones glint in the slips of sunshine. Press your ears against the grass. Listen to what bleeds. My mother in her lovely tongue. Those girls are probably with friends hanging out in the basement, wearing cigarette pants. Cigarette pants were fashionable once. They will turn up like loose change, sidelined under sofa cushion. Overdue books sandwiched in sweaters. Favorite hairpins gagged by Vince. Don't fret. Fret is a funny word for a young child. Sounds like forget. Don't forget, I won't, about the missing Black girls, probably already dead in a ditch or a field somewhere. I'm not supposed to think about death. Passing away, kick the bucket 6 feet under, meeting our maker, which is what my teacher said. The class guinea pig had stopped moving. Mrs. Hayes poked its feet and then shoved it into a shoebox. Said that we could bury it across from the tire swing in the back of the schoolyard. The dirt was ordinary, brown, hard. Eat your snacks, said my mother. Twinkies from 7-Eleven, maybe Wawa. Nothing from Super Fresh or Pathmark. White filling, creamy like white fungus, oozing like zit pus, besmirching golden cake. The news says nothing about Black girls that go missing, not even a speck in someone's unread newspaper. Silence is when we inherit ghosts. I see them taking victory laps every night. And since Mother's Day is coming up, and many of us have been talking about moms, mothering, and motherhood, I also do work in that area, and my mom is here tonight. This is a poem reminding us about mothers having their own light, taking time for ourselves. This poem is called My Mother Gets Her Birth Chart Read. My mother gets her birth chart read by a juju woman who tells her not to be perturbed by blank stars. Leo is ascending, which means good times rocketing faster than sunrise. Marathons of steady life surviving any inklets of dribbled rain. Venus is emerging at 29 degrees North Node, which drives the Earth's one-arm push-ups in the front yard. No makeshift mornings or lonely larks. Plenty of long dahlias envy her teeming thrill as she dilates in front of the projector, seeking not more light, but her own spell. And then I'm going to end with the poem that Donna mentioned. This is one of my favorite poems. There's so much craziness happening in the world. So I always tell my students, I'm an educator too, go outside, take a walk. I know people say just touch grass, but there is something to be said about going outside, trying to look at different colors and be reminded that we're all connected here. Think of nature. Think of the trees, think of grass, think of plants, think of the color green. So in this poem, green really means nourishment. This poem is called G is for Greenhood. G is for greenhood, for spring sitting on my shoulders, then fastening to eye level, chantus gladiola spinning, bowing in the distance, sense of green, greening until earth gets it right. Green that I can't keep to myself. Say, green belongs within reach, like an extract of the sepal outside of the flower body. You wouldn't recognize me when I cradle green, for fear of it becoming worn in many places. Even when morning lurks upside down, green, not this green, never hurts. Ask the turacos giving off green among drizzled leaves. Ask the grasshoppers that throw themselves against grass because it glistens. Ask wet green in my blood that hasn't forgotten spared green across homeland, where your green overlaps with mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dorsia. Thank you, all four of you. You are all wonderful. Thanks to our audience for being here. And again, please save these links if you can't afford to buy all the books right now. Put them on your TBR list the next time you're shopping for books. You were all just wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. And then next reading is going to be in July. And we will have Bernadette Geyer, Ignatius Valentine Aloysius, David Sullivan, and Kevin Risner, who all have new books out. So mark your calendar so that you can join us then. And I'm going to stop the recording and then just after thanking you all one more time for being there. And yes, follow these writers online so that you can see when they have new work coming out because you know you're going to want to run and read it. Thank you so much for being here. Let me stop the recording.